Here we go.
Cool.
All right, we are live. We are back. Thank you for joining us again, Tom Marcello. Nice to be with you here today.
Likewise.
Tom is from Focal Naim of America, and we're going to talk a little bit about a Focal today and Naim. And what has your experience been so far at CanJam 2023 SoCal?
Yeah, so this is my first CanJam ever.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So,
this is a great first experience.
Yeah,
then, I
man,
bet.
it's been a lot of fun. It's a great turnout, obviously. A lot of really cool stuff. Obviously, I go to shows like this nonstop all the time, and I'm always stuck behind, working the booth.
Right.
So this is cool to kind of get a little bit of fresh air,
right.
and also walk around a little bit, see some of the other cool stuff that's here. And I mean, yeah, so far so good.
Has anything struck you, obviously, outside of what you guys carry? Like, is there anything you're like, wow, that looks cool?
Let's see. I mean, between here and the booth, that's really all I've seen. So usually it's the last hour of the last day where I go and actually listen. So I'll get back to you.
Okay, cool. Perfect. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so what do we have here? We got the Utopia 2022, which you guys released last year.
Yep.
This has been I love this headphone. This is one of my favorite headphones of last year. How's it been doing for you guys?
It's an absolute heavyweight, and it has been very well received. And yeah, I mean, it speaks for itself. It's super exciting. I was actually lucky enough to go to the Focal headquarters back in May of this year and watching them build these.
In France, it was just probably epic.
It was exquisite, man. Really nice. And the degree to which that this is really like an artisanal, hands-on product is so clear when you're there. So
you can tell it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Everything they've done with the crushed carbon fiber.
Yeah,
and
exactly. Forged instead of woven like the last ones. A couple of fine-tuning kind of refinements that they wove.
A little warmer sound, which I actually like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's been the kind of the consensus. So if anything, it's easier to listen to for really those long sessions.
Yeah.
Kind of settle in.
Previous Utopia was awesome too, though, especially off a tube amp. Whew,
sure.
It was amazing.
Sure.
Okay, cool. So tell us a little bit about what you do with Focal Naim.
Yeah, so my role at Focal Naim America, FNA, I am I'm the product specialist and trainer. So product specialist, I'm kind of the guy who fields questions regarding, whether it's coming generally from dealers, occasionally public-facing stuff like this, where, we're going into the weeds of technical details, nuts and bolts, but also like the lore and history of the company. It's some fun stuff to talk about, just as a representative of the brands. And under the roof of FNA, there's Focal and there's Naim.
Right.
And like we were chatting a little earlier, you've met my good buddy and colleague, Chris Shaw.
Yeah, great guy.
Chris kind of is Mr. Focal, where I'm a little more Mr. Naim.
Okay.
A lot of overlap. I'm covering for him now, being here.
Right.
But we're kind of shake and bake. That's what we call each other. And so I'm a little more of an expert in some of the moving parts of the Naim electronics. But that being said, like I mentioned earlier, I've had a lot of exposure to the Focal gear, and I'm happy to chat about it today.
Okay, cool, awesome. Well, we can talk about Naim too. So I think we were chatting before. You guys have a new product that's coming out or just came out.
From the Naim side?
Yeah.
Let's see. So yeah, there's an entirely new range. Naim is famous for long product cycles, right? They're kind of an old school. They turned 50 this year. 73 was the founding. And they're pretty famous for long product cycles. And this gear that just came out is at the end of a 23-year stretch.
I like that though, because then you don't always have to feel like you have to upgrade because you got a little bit more length in buying something, especially if you're investing a heavy amount of coin into it.
For sure.
It's a good thing.
And I mean, obviously if COVID hadn't happened, we could have shaved a couple years off of it.
Sure, yeah.
But the gear is called the New Classic series.
Okay.
Replacing the Classic series. And that's the heart and soul of the company, the separate preamp, the streamer, monoblock amps, individual power supply upgrades. It's that stack of gear, in between the two massive Utopia speakers, right?
Right.
So really, again, speaks to the soul of the company going back decades now. And one of the new products, it's a preamplifier. It has a very high-end headphone amp baked into it.
Very cool.
So it's actually the headphone amp that's in the Unity Atom headphone edition.
It's a sweet setup. Yeah.
So we have a dozen of them over at the booth. So that's more than I've ever seen in one place. So it kind of blew my mind. But that headphone amp really, at the end of the day, is pretty much built to power these.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. So, as you guys are building like the Unity Atoms or these different lines of products, obviously Focal is implementing their headphones through those listening tests, and what does that process look like?
Yeah, they both Focal and Naim. They at this point the story, a little bit of background.
Sure.
Focal acquired Naim, entirely in 2011.
Right.
So that was kind of the beginning of this real tight relationship. And since then, there have been sort of these incremental sort of stages, and at this point, we're working very tightly together, and our equipment is voiced off of each other.
Right.
So whether it's speakers, whether it's headphones, they're voicing it off of Naim electronics, and vice versa.
Which is the way it should be, yeah.
Yeah, really. I mean, it really speaks to, I think, a pretty brilliant strategic move long term.
Yep.
And there's more cool stuff that's going to be coming, in the years to come. I mean, some stuff I can't really talk about, but sort of just some logical things that spring from a relationship between a speaker manufacturer that's old school and great and an electronic manufacturer that's the same.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah.
They have the same synergy of thoughts and ideas, and then they blend them together.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly, man. Exactly. It's they paved over 1,000 years of history, and now they get along pretty well.
That's good. That's good. It's good. And then so you also have recently the Batiste just came with an update from the Focal side with a dune color, which looks really sweet. And then you also, on the Naim side, you worked on the app development for the Batiste. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure. So the Batiste that initially came out in kind of a darker color, more along these lines. That piece is extremely successful.
Yeah.
I travel with one. I literally on the flight here. It's the proverbial screaming child next to me. And I flew from the East Coast, so it was 4 hours, and they came in handy. But,
absolutely.
Great piece. And then like you said, we have the new lighter finish called Dune. That is basically the first time I've seen one. It's been here at the show, so they're really brand new. But kind of a cool, option there.
Yeah.
So
the yin to the yang of the two color schemes, basically.
Exactly. Get one of each. Why not?
Depending
on your mood. Yeah.
Yep.
But then, of course, like you mentioned, the app. So the app is something that Naim built in-house. Naim's a company of about 250 people, roughly, and about 10% of those people are software engineers. So they have a really strong in-house team there. And the fact that we made our own app means it really works a lot better than a lot of things you find kind of in the hi-fi universe.
Yeah.
Right? So for a long time, it was just the Naim app. And then when the Batiste came out, they basically found a way to integrate it into the Naim app. So now it's the Focal and Naim app in the App Store.
Yeah, I spent some time and created a video on the Batiste. I thought it was fantastic for a Bluetooth headphone. I mean, and even if above what a Bluetooth headphone, right?
For sure.
And I know that from the time I did it, because it was pretty close to after the Batiste was originally released, the app has also seen improvements and upgrades, correct?
Yeah, sure. They're always working on it, always doing firmware updates. Typically, it's like little bug fixes, things like that, just standard software stuff. They haven't really reinvented the wheel, but it is, when you open the app, you can kind of swipe between either the Focal side or the Naim side.
Right.
And the Focal side, as it stands now, is really the only thing that kind of fits in that category is the Batiste.
Sure. Yep.
But it is pretty cool to be able to go into the same app that you maybe do your whole house audio system in, and then you want to sit down and listen on the headphones, and then you can adjust the things like whether you're in silent noise cancellation mode or kind of intermediate soft mode or transparent mode, just with a couple of taps and the headphones respond. You can turn the logo brightness up or down.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool.
Some EQ adjustments. It's just cool features.
And I think with the update, that's one of the things I saw was an upgrade to the EQ, which I thought was that's going to please a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly.
Because originally, when I spent the time with it, was only 3 bands that you could play with, and then I think it went to 5 or 6.
I think that's right. Yeah, there's certainly more. It's just a deeper way to play with it. And everyone, I'd say that when I talk to my friends who don't know anything about hi-fi, I kind of explain my sort of place in the universe. And then when headphones come up, I say that headphones is kind of a sub-culture within a subculture.
Sure,
and people really, I think, appreciate the ability to fine-tune that kind of thing.
Yep.
Not
that they need it, though. I mean, honestly,
sure.
I listened to them without any, and I was just well satisfied by the way they were voiced and tuned.
They're exquisitely balanced. They definitely have been successful, and I think well received with good reason. And once they break in, they sound even better. So I listen to them on all the time.
I love that you brought that up. So, break-in. I've been around a long time in the audio world, previous to what I do with TSAV. I've always believed in break-in because physical drivers need to move. There's things that have to happen from a physics standpoint for that sound to sound its best. Focal states in the manual, or your user manual for. I own a pair of Focal Stellias. I've obviously reviewed and demoed, I think, your entire line of headphones.
Okay.
So I mean, you got metal drivers, or a form of metal, different, right? There's beryllium, there's magnesium, there's aluminum from some
Alloys,
of the old alloys, and then the mixture of. Of course, break-in is a legit thing, but you still have people out there. We won't get too deep into it, but they don't believe in it. But my point, I guess, is I appreciate that you brought that up, because if a manufacturer states that a product should receive, and I think in your case it's 24 to 48 hours of bass-heavy music to get that driver moving and all the parts to settle in to get the most optimal sound. I wish people would just say, "Hell, I'll burn them in for 2." Like they don't have to be a big thing.
Or you push the glasses up. It's like, well, actually,
right.
Well,
actually,
those guys.
Actually, there's no such thing as bad.
No, it's it's like a pair of shoes.
Right.
They're moving parts to it,
Yes.
and they sound better. They work, with that in mind. Even when they're designed, they understand. It's like, you got to kind of plan for this to sound a little bit different, a little better when it's broken in. And I have the same argument with people over like a streamer, a piece of electronics. There are not really any moving parts in that, but that even sounds better after having current run through it and circuits burn in, and they sound better over time.
Well, and there's also there's brain burn-in too. Like, I mean, there's an adjustment period of where you were adjusting sound, because the human ear, our human hearing is so amazing, we can adjust to the sound, different sounds, and we'll hear it at an optimal level.
Right.
So I think we should just agree that there's like both, like in the world. So let's not argue about it anymore, people.
For sure, yeah.
So what do you do when you're not working for Focal Naim? Like, what do you do for fun? What do you find for enjoying?
Let's see, man. So I am born and raised out of the low country of South Carolina. So
Okay, cool.
The other SC, not Southern California. So I live there now. And it's home sweet home. It's in the middle of a national forest. It's a beautiful spot.
That's awesome.
This time of year is gorgeous. Like, I go fishing a lot, spend a lot of time in a little john boat.
You fly fish or just boat fish?
It's like surf fishing. I'm on the ocean.
Okay.
So up to my knees into the Atlantic, catching all kinds of fish. Like, if you put a fly rod in my hand, it probably wouldn't be pretty. I don't really know.
Yeah, it's not that hard. Once you learn it, it just takes practice. It's fun.
But spend a lot of time outdoors and just travel enthusiastically. This job has a ton of travel involved.
I imagine,
but going to big metro areas around the country is it's rewarding. I have friends half the places I go, so it's exciting. And then one of the big perks is. Hey Tom, we need you to go to France. It's like,
you're like, oh,
twist my arm.
shoot. I guess if I have to.
So yeah, it's a real pleasure. So I do enjoy traveling a lot, and obviously, again, speaking to my friends who don't understand the industry, I put it on a kind of a spectrum, right, of guys who are really into music and guys who are really into the gear.
Yeah,
and
that's what I say. There's an audio file, which I feel sometimes leans towards more like the gear. And then there's the audio enthusiast, which is the person that loves the music and likes the gear too to get the best sound for the music that they love.
Exactly. Yeah. So in terms of that spectrum, and saying this as basically the product guy, I gotta be 1 foot firmly in the product world, but I just love music. So collect a lot of vinyl, listen to music all day, every day. In my free time, and it's definitely kind of like my main thing.
What genres of music do you listen to? Everything, or do you have a leanings towards something that gets played more often than not?
So as a kind of music nerd, I ask people what they like to listen to, and this is a little passé now, but 10 or 15 years ago, I'd be like, oh, what kind of music do you like? They're like, oh, I like everything. It's like, what's in your CD player now?
Yeah, there you go.
So kind of dial in on it.
What's your favorite playlist?
Let's see. So like the last record I bought is a reissue, like basically a remaster of a Replacements album called Tim. So
cool.
Some kind of like proto alt rock from the 80s. Been into the Replacements a lot lately, but I listen to anything and everything, man. So I'm always trying to soak it up.
Focal has a good sound for rock.
Yeah.
Because it's dynamic, it's fast, it's punchy, and it's exciting.
For
So,
sure. Yeah.
I love to listen to rock on my Stellias a lot.
Yeah.
Good. Let's see if we have some questions. Not headphone related. Okay, let's see. Zaram, thanks for the question, buddy. It says not headphone related, but would Focal Naim consider making active speakers?
I think it's certainly something they would consider. Whether they've actually built anything. When I imagine sort of like roadmap items like that, I think of the guy in the basement, and that's his passion project.
Right.
And we might see it, at some point. So I'd be really surprised if they didn't eventually do that, given the sort of strengths of Naim and Focal, right? So you can think it isn't that big of a stretch to think of a Naim amp incorporated, maybe with some streaming into some speakers.
Yep.
I can't really speculate on the if and when.
But why not?
You see other brands are doing very similar stuff now. And but my guess, would be that given we talked about the product cycle development and Naim, Focal is maybe a little quicker and a little more kind of they're a little more current with their designs. They can re-release things. Electronics move a little more slowly.
Sure.
But that sort of pairing between the two, I think that they would certainly consider it, and maybe I'll go bug them for details.
I like it.
Yeah.
And then as far as like your favorite headphones from Focal, if you were to say, okay, this is the sound that Focal has a house sound, but each headphone has there's differences and subtle differences, obviously. What do you lean to as being your favorite? Would it be the Utopia 2022, or would it be another one? Or
for me, so kind of a short answer, Clear MG.
That's a great all-around headphone and a great price.
It's kind of a sweet spot, and it's that price point. I've never really gotten out of the mindset of kind of shopping with my own pocketbook.
Right. Yeah.
It's like working in hi-fi is fantastic. No one really does it to become a millionaire. So as much as I'd like to drop the cash on some top of the line stuff, I think that I really appreciate the value. Of the Clear MGs, and it's also just a kind of a good barometer, a good starting point for someone who wants to listen to the line. It's like, take a look at this.
Yes. As
sort of a level setting calibration, and then. Obviously, if you're in a sales role, you're selling down. You let someone listen to the Utopias, and then it might, all of a sudden they might scrounge up a few $1,000 to afford them. But for me, I really do dig the Clear MGs.
I think so too. They're a great headphone. Of course, I would say money no object. If we're not talking about value, then yes, obviously the Utopia 2022.
Yeah.
What about speakers? What about from the speaker line?
Sure. So speakers, I think that my favorite one, and obviously there are other considerations, but I'd say pound for pound, and still not inexpensive, but I think every single dollar of it, you're in the safe territory of cost benefit curve.
Right.
You're not.
You're getting
you're not in the
something
diminishing returns
Yeah.
where you're spending 5 times as much for 5%.
Right. A few points, basically.
Yeah. So there, I'd say the Sopra 2s.
Yeah, those are nice.
The Sopras are. I spend a ton of time with them. A lot of the showrooms I go to have them there.
Yeah.
Because it's fantastic. Obviously, as the Utopias are, it's going to be a pretty rarefied group of dealers.
Utopias are very expensive.
Yeah, they're expensive, and you got to have the market to support them.
Sure.
It's a
beautiful speakers though. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
and they're massive.
Yeah.
Massive. You have to have a room that will support them too.
For sure. And if you're looking for a large room, you can do the Sopra 3s.
Yes, exactly. That's true.
But really the beauty of how Focal does their speakers is, of the 6 kind of hi-fi home speakers, there's overlap. So both the Utopia top of the line crazy guys and the Sopras share Beryllium tweeters.
Right.
And they share basically the same cone technology.
Right.
So the composite W sandwich cone. And obviously, you peel them apart and look at the real machinery involved, and they're different. There's more sophisticated equipment.
And also finishing and other things too. All the aesthetics also are different in some ways.
They're not just charging more because they want to. There's a lot more goes into that.
Yep.
But that sort of overlap sort of speaks to the real consideration that goes into every single line being sort of a stepping stone. A really coherent start with pair of $1,000 bookshelves and end with the $285,000 monster, over the top brand Utopias. You have stepping stones every step of the way, but again, that kind of sweet spot is I'd say the Super 2s.
Yeah. Your latest line was the Vestia?
So there's the Vestia.
And
that came out actually about a year ago.
Pretty well received.
Oh, they're fantastic.
Very well received. Like
they're awesome.
They're selling like crazy, and then they're also just like pretty universally loved, which is like, I mean, a lot of people are saying if your money, like we're talking value again, you're looking to shop in the value segment, but you want a really fantastic quality of sound. I mean, I know we're at a headphone show, but the reality is that's a fantastic speaker for the money.
Definitely bang for the buck. The Vestia number 3s are probably like the ones that I've heard.
That's the one. That's what I think.
Yeah, with like one of the Naim Unity all-in-ones.
Yes.
Like that bang for the buck is gonna punch above its weight several $1,000.
I love it.
So the Vestias are fantastic.
All right, let's see. It says, okay, great question. Let's see. Perp Dolo, what is your favorite closed-back Focal headphone? I know mine. It's the Stelly. Hands down for me. Yeah. I bought it. I mean, I bought it for a reason.
Yeah.
But that's
inclined to agree.
Yeah.
It's hard to argue with.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, it's one of those things that...
The Celesti's quite good too, but there's just that extra amount of detail in the beryllium, the speed. I mean, there's just something else about it.
There is some like kind of magic that happens, kind of psychoacoustics start kicking in a way that you didn't realize you were missing out on before. So it's that sort of like hi-fi light bulb experience where you're like, oh,
right.
And I think the Stellies do a great job of that as you kind of step up into them.
Yeah, and I mean, what's also great about most of your headphones, the majority of them. I mean, this one is. It could use a little bit more amping, but I think it's designed to be that way. But most of the closebacks are super efficient, super efficient. Yeah. So you can listen to them. You don't have to. I mean, it helps to have a better amp. Obviously, like Naim, right? We want to go with the best quality amp. But if you want to start somewhere and you're looking at a headphone that's still going to sound pretty damn fantastic, and then save up as you're buying and building up to get that better amp pairing, Focal closebacks and open backs for that matter do really well at that.
Well, and like you said, tubes. Something
tubes.
If you don't have a ton of power and you want to do a tube and just get that sweetness, there's it's very easy to pull off. With Stellies.
Great question. Here's another one. Okay, let's see. Oh, that's an interesting question. Would Focal headphones consider other driver tech such as planar?
So, if I had to make that long-term bet, I would probably say no.
Yeah.
Just because, so talking about going to France, going to visit the factory, their approach to building drivers is so intense.
Yeah.
Going there,
they've been doing it for so long.
Exactly.
Too. Yep.
So I think they're for them to kind of deviate from what they're so specialized in would surprise me, but it wouldn't shock me. Right? If they did that, it would be interesting. But a little thing, and it looks like we are kind of hitting time here.
Yep.
Something to end on. Going to Focal, something that blew my mind. I've been there a few times. In the last when I've been there in the summer, the previous 12 months, between headphone drivers, speakers, the car audio, the pro audio, they made almost 1 million drivers.
Wow, that's insane.
A million.
That's insane.
It's a bigger company than Naim is, but not by a whole lot. It's still very hands-on, and to just watch them do this at such a high level, they're very much focused on what they're doing.
That's a great question. Yeah. If we have any other question, we might have time for one more, but we have a hard cutoff at 2:30, and we'll have more streaming going on. So, what are you gonna do? Anything after hours? Anything fun while you're down here? Just grab some food, or just rest because of travel?
Yeah, I'm a little bit jet lagged, but it's not that bad. I think we have some dinner on the beach planned. That kind of stuff.
That's
man.
Cool.
Again, just. I love my job, and that's one of the perks is kind of whining and dining. So
that's the way it should be.
It's the nature of my job. I kind of parachute into towns, and that kind of stuff is taken care of for me. So
that's the way it should be.
I'm all right with it.
That sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think that'll probably wrap it up. Thank you guys for joining us, and gals, if we have any gals out there, and if you guys have any questions, You can feel free to leave questions in the comments of the live stream video after the fact, and I'll do my best to try to get them answered for you. We will have another stream coming up here at 3 o'clock. And I believe that's with Dan Clark Audio. We'll probably talk about the Carina, his new electrostatic headphone, and some other things, so don't go anywhere. And thank you so much for joining us, man. It was a pleasure.
Yeah,
and all of you guys out there, thank you so much, and we'll see you guys in about 30 minutes. Take care.